Azelaic acid's claim to fame in dermatology was causing a skin condition. Basically, there's a rash, a very, very, very common rash. I see it often in younger patients. They develop this rash on their body that looks lighter skin tone than their actual skin. And so it's called tinea versicolor. And this yeast produces an ingredient called azelaic acid, and that's part of how it causes the changes on the skin. Fast forward to 2020, I think a lot more patients, a lot more people started being aware of azelaic acid as an ingredient that can help with hyperpigmentation. So it's just interesting. It can change your skin color for the worse in one scenario, but then it can actually be very beneficial, work beautifully for hyperpigmentation in another. Hi, everyone. Dr. Caroline Robinson here, cosmetic dermatologist in Chicago, and we're talking all about trends today. Red light masks are not all created equal. There's actually a lot of variability that can occur, whether it's how it fits to the skin, which is very important for delivering that energy, or just how many bulbs it has, how strong they are. And one of the most important parameters that I tell patients to look for is the wavelength. So that's how many nanometers is listed on the box, and it tells you how strong that red light device is. And actually, more precisely, where in the wavelength spectrum it falls in what specific light it's delivering to the skin. I don't want to overcomplicate red light. Essentially what it does is it uses light, which is pretty unique, in specific wavelengths. And in this case, that's the red spectrum, the near infrared spectrum. And it uses that to trigger our skin cells to undergo healing. And it's actually targeting at the level of the collagen and the elastin, which is that great area that we want to get tighter because we lose so much collagen since our 20s. The key to red light is you need to balance expectation. It's not going to be, especially in the at-home devices, it's not going to be as strong or as effective as something you can get in the office, like a laser, which also uses light. But if you're consistent, you can see results. And one of the ways that I like to use it with my patients is between visits. Since red light promotes more healing than skin injury, like a lot of the treatments that we do in the office, it's actually a nice adjunct. It's a nice balance to have with our treatments. And so I have patients use it consistently a couple of times a week between their visits. From a safety perspective, you want to always make sure that you're following the instructions on the device because each device is so unique and different. I always recommend using it on clean skin. And if there's eye protection with a device, you want to make sure that you're using that. When you're selecting a device, I think the most important thing is whether that company has done studies on your specific device. So some companies will just take the approved technology and create something for you to use, but they've never actually tested it on people. So I've seen the data, I've read the tests, I've read the studies, and there are a couple that I consistently recommend. I'm going to leave those in a link in the description. So red light masks get a thumbs up. Niacinamide is actually a form of vitamin B3. It helps the skin in a number of ways. The most common way that I use it for my patients is for oiliness. Why niacinamide is actually a pretty awesome ingredient is because it's one of the few ingredients that helps with oil control. There's actually studies that it can help slow sebum excretion in 2 to 4 weeks just at the 2% level. And most ingredients that actually help with oil are exfoliating or they're stripping of the skin, and niacinamide is the opposite. It has the ability to stimulate your skin to produce its own ceramides, which is another buzzy word. People are looking for creams with ceramides, but did you know that we make our own? So the 2% is great for that. I think the biggest thing with niacinamide is that it has the ability to cause skin irritation. And I have seen that people using that 10% level every day and they have very sensitive skin. It can cause irritation. So this is a situation where more isn't more. 2% for oil control, I think, is great. And usually at the 4 or 5% level is where we start to see some benefits with hyperpigmentation. So it can help to even skin tone. And again, it's another ingredient that is beneficial for a skin issue like hyperpigmentation or dark spots, but it doesn't cause irritation. So that's the sweet spot there for niacinamide. This is the takeaway I think for niacinamide. You don't need a 10% level. That level can address some fine lines and wrinkles, but it also has the risk of irritation. And we have a lot of other ingredients, I would say arguably better ingredients for wrinkles. So, but if you're using it at a lower percentage, at a 2% or a 5% for oil or pigment, I think those are great uses of it. So niacinamide gets a thumbs up from me. Chemical peels are one of my favorite categories of treatments. I think everyone at least once in their life should get a chemical peel. Just see how it feels and experience it. What it is actually is a blend of a couple of different acids. Every peel has its own blend, but usually there's alpha hydroxy acids like glycolic and lactic, or beta hydroxy acids like salicylic acid, or other acids that go deeper into the skin like TCA and phenol. And each category of peels is based actually on how deep those acids penetrate. AHAs kind of stay closer to the skin surface, and they're helping to stimulate some new collagen, elastin, some skin cell turnover. And when you're getting into the BHAs and the TCAs, those are much deeper in the skin, and they're causing some deeper changes. And so the goal is to get smoother skin, healthier looking, more refreshed skin, whether that's just a little bit of exfoliation at the top or whether those are deeper changes. Chemical peels were my first introduction into aesthetic medicine, and I know how complex they are, that at-home chemical peels, just the word just makes me shudder. Because with these types of treatments, you want to make sure that you're always in control of the depth. And there are little things that can really alter the depth, basically how deep that peel goes. Anything from like drier skin, cracks or breaks in the skin, using a cotton ball instead of gauze can actually change the depth of the peel as well. If a chemical peel goes too deeply into the skin, it can actually cause chemical burns. And if it gets deep enough, it can affect the pigment in the skin and lead to either hyperpigmentation or hypopigmentation. So at-home peels are a thumbs down for me, but in-office peels are a thumbs up. So just like how niacinamide has that sweet spot for oil control and pigment for people who have sensitive skin, I love peptides, but they're not the workhorse of the routine. You have your retinoids, you have your sunscreen, you have your antioxidants, and those are your foundation. But there is a rare patient where I either want to boost some of that retinoid activity or they can't tolerate retinoids at all. I'm often reaching for a peptide. Depending on the peptides in the formula, they can help from anything from fine lines to wrinkles to even just skin elasticity and thickness. I will say that there are some peptides claiming to be Botox in the bottle. The only Botox in a bottle is Botox. Overall, I think they're innovative and a nice category to add after you've already developed your foundational routine. So peptides get a thumbs up for me. Azelaic acid's claim to fame in dermatology, like its original claim to fame, was causing a skin condition. It did not start out as a skin ingredient. I have to tell people that all the time. So basically, there's a rash, a very, very, very common rash. I see it often in like younger patients that are tend to have acne and maybe tend to be a little bit more oily. They develop this rash on their body that looks lighter skin tone than their actual skin. And so it's called tinea versicolor. And this yeast produces an ingredient called azelaic acid, and that's part of how it causes the changes on the skin. Fast forward to 2020, I think a lot more patients, a lot more people started being aware of azelaic acid as an ingredient that can help with hyperpigmentation. So it's just interesting. It can change your skin color for the worse in one scenario, but then it can actually be very beneficial, like work beautifully for hyperpigmentation in another. So after that, we started to adopt using it in dermatology for two conditions. One, rosacea. It has some anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial activity, so it can help to improve redness and some of the bumps that we see in rosacea. But we also use it for acne, a little bit of a higher percentage as a prescription. And I think that somewhere around 2020, azelaic acid just got a complete rebrand and everyone was asking me about it. I think I saw it all over social that people really were falling in love with this ingredient. Just like our niacinamide and our peptides, there's a little sweet spot for azelaic acid as well. I love it for a rosacea patient who also has an acne crossover. We call that acne rosacea. And they're creating some post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation with all of that inflammation. Then azelaic acid is perfect because it's helping with that redness and it's also helping with the brown spots. It's helping with red and brown. So azelaic acid is available as a prescription. I'll often do a 15% for rosacea and a 20% for my acne patients, but it's available over the counter at a lower percentage, usually a 10%, and that can be still effective for some of those changes that we mentioned, just calming down some redness, calming down some of the hyperpigmentation as well. And so I think overall, azelaic acid is a thumbs up for me. When I'm scrolling on social, one of the scroll stoppers for me is when someone is demonstrating their skincare routine. I get so curious. I'm like, what steps are they using? What products are they using? I think it's so fun. It's always so interesting to me to see how many products are being used. This has been looked into lately. There were two studies I saw where scientists and dermatologists reviewed just randomly 100 TikTok videos and counted up the number of products used in each video and averaged it out. 6 or 7 steps seemed to be the average. And that is a lot from a skin health aspect. Our skin only has a few basic needs, and one of them is the cleansing. It helps you get some of that dirt, oil, and debris off from the day, but exfoliation, and that's important, just encouraging the skin cells to turn over, and moisturization. So cleansing, exfoliating, and moisturizing. We can accomplish that in less than 6 steps. And the more steps that we add is actually more likely that we can get irritation, clogged pores, and I always say this line to my patients, it's doing chemistry on your face. And we're not chemists. We should do less is more. Less products, less irritation, less risk of bad things. The bottom line is that every step in your routine should have a purpose, and we can accomplish our basic skin needs and more in 3 or 4 steps. So a multi-step routine is going to get a thumbs down for me.